Endings can make or break just about any piece of media. Get it right and you've crafted an indelible moment fans won't ever forget, but screw it up and they'll never let it go, forever, as this list proves. And while games as a whole aren't as singularly dependent on storytelling as other visual media, don't think for a second that doesn't mean fans will simply put up with a poorly executed ending. Whether it was a fatal creative misstep or a sign of the changing tide, in each case these endings left a major section of the fanbase alienated and perhaps even feeling that their time had been wasted. I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 gaming endings that basically doomed the franchise. Number 10. Choices mean nothing. Mass Effect 3. It's tough to think of a AAA gaming franchise that burned its bridges with fans more thoroughly than Mass Effect, which for its first 2 games was unquestionably one of the most immersive and smartly written blockbuster video game properties ever made. Fans were chomping at the bit to see how BioWare would wrap up Commander Shepard's story in Mass Effect 3, while factoring in the choices they made throughout the series, only for the eventual ending to reduce dozens if not hundreds of play hours down to a simple choice: pick a colour. And look, I still think Mass Effect 3 is a solid game for the most part, but even I can't deny its ending does lessen the impact of all the choices you made prior. The release of a clarified extended ending didn't help much either. Reports subsequently emerged that EA has put the franchise on ice for the foreseeable future, and though Andromeda was hardly a great game, the series' downfall was clearly caused by Mass Effect 3 aggravating so much of the fanbase. Number 9. The non-ending Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. From a mechanical perspective, Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain is one of the greatest open-world action games of the generation, but it also dealt major damage to the brand through its highly contentious conclusion, or rather, lack thereof. Though MGS5's climactic twist, that Venom Snake was actually a doppelganger of Big Boss the whole time, proved plenty divisive with the fanbase, fans were generally far angrier that the game ended on such a ridiculous cliffhanger. It's no secret that MGS5 was effectively released unfinished by an impatient Konami, resulting in the story more or less ending in flux as a young Liquid Snake flees to parts unknown with Metal Gear Salanthropus in tow. A scrapped third chapter, remnants of which have since been revealed, would have given the game a more concrete ending, rather than the deeply unsatisfying one which, given Hideo Kojima's departure from Konami, the main franchise has most likely concluded with. Even if Konami does eventually decide to move ahead with a 6th Metal Gear Solid game sans Kojima, for many fans the franchise has been irreparably tainted. Number 8. Desmond Dies Assassin's Creed 3. Though the Assassin's Creed franchise continues to be a critical and commercial success to this day, for many fans the series' luster wore off considerably following the infuriating ending of 2012's Assassin's Creed 3. After all, the franchise's big conceit was its unexpected sci-fi twist, where the real historical settings are actually genetic memories being accessed by the series' real protagonist, Desmond Miles. Yet despite the clear implication that Desmond would eventually become an action hero in his own right, AC3 concluded with him semi-randomly sacrificing himself in order to save humanity. Ever since, the franchise has dialed back the modern-day elements as it became clear nobody knew what to do with them post-Desmond, even though they were easily the most interesting and ambitious aspect of the series' mythology. It took until a semi-reboot in Origins to get fans back, but many are still mentally checked out of the modern-day shenanigans. Number 7. Chloe or Arcadia Bay, Life is Strange. Despite its frequently cringe-worthy dialogue, the first season of Life is Strange is a mostly brilliant emotional slice of supernatural fantasy drama, albeit one which served up an ending that, one way or another, has basically condemned the whole franchise. Life is Strange concludes by giving the player a choice. They can either save protagonist Max's best pal Chloe and allow the town of Arcadia Bay to be destroyed, or they can allow Chloe to die in order to save the town. For starters, many fans were dismayed that the end of the game came down to a binary choice after Max demonstrated far more fluid and far-reaching time rewinding abilities throughout the rest of the game. But the wider implication of this choice is that, with Don't Nod refusing to acknowledge either ending as canon, they forced themselves to rustle up an entirely new story and fresh set of characters for the recent sequel, all of which sharply divided fans. After all, fans fell in love with Max and Chloe, and so to shift so abruptly to an entirely new setting and cast for Life is Strange 2 rubbed a lot of players the wrong way. Whether or not a Life is Strange 3 ever in fact happens, the series as a whole feels incapable of escaping the shadow of the brilliant Max-Chloe relationship. Number 6. It was an MMORPG all along. Star Ocean Till the End of Time. Star Ocean Till the End of Time plays host to one of the most infamous plot twists in gaming history, as unfolds in the latter stages of the game. It's eventually revealed that all of the game's characters are actually NPC avatars existing within a computer simulation. And so this rich, dense world players have become invested in over the course of 4 games is nothing more than a glorified MMORPG. In an overzealous attempt to surprise fans, developers Tri-Ace ultimately left many of them re-evaluating their opinion on the entire series, and worse still, it completely ruined the trust that fans had in the series' storytelling. As a result, every Star Ocean game released since has been a prequel, as though Tri-Ace themselves appreciates that a sequel would be immediately handicapped by the knowledge that it's all pretty much meaningless. Number 5. Status Quo Restored, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. The marketing for Shadow of the Tomb Raider seemed to suggest that the game was going to offer up an atypical spin on the adventure franchise's formula, by examining the impact of Lara Croft's globe-trotting artifact-thieving behaviour on the civilizations that reside there. But despite teasing Lara to be the game's true villain with some of her more reckless actions throughout the game, namely stealing a dagger which brings forth the apocalypse, she's ultimately restored to her regular white saviour mode by the game's end. While the game could have ventured into one of several truly bold directions, the status quo is largely restored by the time the credits roll, with the asterisk that Lara will now try to protect rather than steal things during her adventures. However, by showing the consequences of her blinkered privilege adventuring upon indigenous civilizations, as in literally getting innocent people killed, it's going to be tough to engage with the next game with quite the same oorah flippancy. Number 4. What Just Happened? Call of Duty Black Ops 3. In recent years, the Call of Duty franchise has made some misguidedly ambitious attempts to move away from the more typical campaign narratives players are used to, culminating in the comically absurd plot of Black Ops 3. Making even basic sense of the game's wildly convoluted story isn't easy, though the end of Black Ops 3 reveals that the unnamed protagonist actually died at the start of the game, and most of the subsequent events have in fact been taking place inside a simulation. More than anything though, Black Ops 3's migraine-inducingly incoherent story underlined an overall problem with the franchise at that point, that the fast-ramping sci-fi silliness of the series had reached a fever pitch. And so when it came time for Treyarch to develop Black Ops 4, they responded to the vocal fan criticism of BO3's campaign by, well, just not including a campaign at all. Instead, they controversially chose to focus instead on a new Battle Royale mode, Blackout, to fans' further frustration. Though subsequent Call of Duty games from other studios have thankfully restored campaigns to the fore, it's fair to suggest that the Black Ops brand has been permanently tainted by the hostile response to Black Ops 3's horrendous campaign, especially its ending. Number 3. To be continued again. Shenmue 3. Shenmue 3 was one of the most anticipated video game sequels of all time, arriving almost 2 decades after the second game left fans on an epic cliffhanger, with Ryo Hazuki's vengeance against his father's killer, Lan Di, still unfulfilled. And though franchise director Yu Suzuki did tell fans that Shenmue 3 wasn't the end of Ryo's story, given the sheer time and effort it took to get the third game made, fans surely deserve to see the story significantly move forward, no? Well, instead, Shenmue 3 ends in a hilariously anticlimactic fashion, as a brief boss fight with Lan Di, who was absent for 99.8% of the game by the way, culminates in Ryo getting his arse kicked and Lan Di escaping once again. A closing title informs us that the story goes on, as though to rub salt in the wound that near 2 decades of waiting really wasn't worth it after all. Considering that Shenmue 3's mere existence is a freaking miracle, and there's no guarantee at all that a 4th game will ever come to pass, the game's refusal to move the story on left many fans feeling burned for all the time and money they had invested into this project. Number 2. The Joker Dies, Batman Arkham City. On paper, Batman Arkham City featured one hell of a ballsy ending, as the Joker died from Titan poisoning, seeming to indicate that the Arkham series wasn't simply going to use the Dark Knight's most iconic foe as the dramatic crutch forevermore. But the brilliance of the Joker's demise was effectively undermined by the games that followed. Arkham Origins managed to bring the Joker back by functioning as a prequel to the 2 prior games, while Arkham Knight again had the Joker appear posthumously by way of hallucinations in Batman's head, courtesy of his own poisoning. Clearly, Rockstar realised they screwed up by killing off the Joker, because as fantastic as Arkham City's ending was, the rest of the franchise was left wanting whenever he wasn't around. And so he was continually brought back to the fold by any contrived means necessary. Number 1. What a twist! Danganronpa v3 Killing Harmony. The ending to Danganronpa V3 Killing Harmony is one of the most fiercely debated of the past few years. A bold and ambitious finale, which nevertheless ran the risk of alienating most of the core fanbase. The franchise as a whole follows a group of highly skilled students caught in a series of killing games, and each time a murder takes place, the player must investigate as part of a class trial, which can result in the accused being brutally slaughtered. The big twist is that Danganronpa is in fact a reality TV show watched by millions, and the memories and personalities of the characters in the game are mere fabrications for the sake of entertainment. There's a lot more to it than that, but V3 basically attempts to deconstruct the series and poke fun at the player's own bloodlust. However, this not only irked some fans who didn't like being the target of the game's derision, but also those who felt the twist effectively invalidated the characters and story of the first two games. Though it's pretty much inevitable that Danganronpa V4 will eventually surface, much like Star Ocean, it'll likely suffer from many of its fans being disengaged following a context-shifting reveal. So that's our list. Want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Did these moments ruin these franchises for you, and are there any I've missed off here? Also, while you're down there, could you give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to WhatCulture.com for more lists and news like this every single day. Even if you don't though, I've been Josh, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.